Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey here, once again with another video on The Flash Season 5, and this is going to be my review for episode 11 for this season, otherwise entitled Seeing Red. Do I have anything? There's Flash up there, he's red, so we're seeing him, I guess. But of course, if you've not watched the episode, go watch it, spoiler alert, so yeah, that's pretty simple. But if you are continuing on, you've watched the episode, let me know in the comment section down below your various opinions on this episode. What did you love? What did you hate? What did you like? What did you dislike? Just let me know all of your opinions down there in the comments. And of course, if you enjoyed this episode and you just want to show your support, be sure to drop a like on the video to do all that. The last episode was obviously the mid-season premiere, and yeah, it was an episode. We ended with basically Reverse Flash, Eobard Thawne in the future having like a countdown clock that isn't referenced in this episode, but we also ended with Sherloque finding out that Nora had actually deleted all of those entries that she'd sent somewhere, and there's no record of that. So Sherloque is doing a bit more investigating with all of that in this episode. But we start off this episode by saying that Doctor, she has a name, I'm just calling Doctor, the Doctor, visits Cicada and actually gives him a list of metahumans who we later find out are a bunch of convicts or ex-prisoners. They're just criminals, I guess. But speaking of criminals, and I guess also past metahumans that we met on the show, we meet Nora again, who is, involved in a bit of a scrap with Cicada. And this is when we actually see Cicada get his first kill. I can't remember the guy's name, but the actor who played that big guy that Cicada kills at the beginning, he's actually the actor who was inside the Savitar suit in season 3. So obviously at the beginning we had like the CGI Savitar, but once they started using like a physical Savitar suit, that guy was in the suit. So he was technically Savitar's actor when the suit was on. So he was actually Savitar the majority of the time, I think, if you think about it. Anyway. But Cicada doesn't stop there. I think he gets like 3 or 4 kills before, Team Flash starts to act upon it. So he gets another one, then another one, then another one. So he had a bit of a hot streak at the beginning of this episode, our good old masked man with a dagger. Now, throughout their episode, there was some Caitlin Snow Killer Frost drama, mainly just around the cure and all of that. I didn't mind it because it makes sense that Killer Frost might just be a bit wary of it, because of the past with Caitlin and Killer Frost, about, Caitlin really not wanting her, but now Caitlin's come to terms and sort of likes Killer Frost. Like, they're very, they're on good terms, the two of them. So you can understand the distress between it, but I think it was just a really hammer home a point that really happens at the end of this episode. I know there is, and I still agree with it as well, there is some question marks over like Killer Frost's development and like proper storytelling with her. She has really, really cool moments, arguably like in regards to characters, she's probably in the top 3 in regards to cool moments that characters have on the show. It's just how they lead up to those moments and how they set them up and just general storytelling, which is a bit of an issue. But yeah, you good parts, you bad parts, so I guess they even up and balance out. But we get the big part that was like really heavily referenced in the trailers for this episode, and that's the Cicada fight when Cicada's killing the lady in red. Like, she has like, her clothes were too big. I think that's what's referenced because she was in solitary confinement or something. But, we have that fight, and I was thinking to myself, like, oh, Caitlin was like, we need a hospital, but then Caitlin sort of like lifts her up to take her away, and I was like, why is Caitlin or Killer Frost taking her to the hospital? She never leaves, but I was like, why doesn't Nora quickly pick her up and run away with her? That's what I was thinking, like, why would you keep her there, especially if Cicada was targeting her? Nora, pick her up and run. But I guess we had to have what happened next happen, and that's when Cicada picks up good old Nora and decides to, well, absolutely just like, I don't know, what's a wrestling move where someone just completely punches someone? I don't know. It was a big jab, let's just say that, a big jab into the back, and Nora's spine was just completely destroyed. And for a speedster, it's not that big of an issue, but it's still a point of concern for this episode. But due to what Cicada's doing, we have Operation Metahuman Rescue. Is that the best way to put it? If you have a better name for it, let me know in the comment section down below. But we'll call it Operation Metahuman Rescue for the moment. And it was sort of surprising seeing Norvalk help. We do get a bit of a backstory to him where he was like a zookeeper. He was like, I don't know if he specialized in like the reptile department or he was just there. But essentially when it all happened, like glass broke, a snake went to bite someone. He grabbed the snake, stopped a kid from getting bitten or dying. And then the dark matter hit him. And that's why he has like the snake eyes, because literally there's a snake in his head. and that like killing mentality or that negative mentality basically changed him from a nice guy who was a zookeeper into this, criminal that we have now. So I guess that's an interesting backstory. Was it a necessary backstory? Probably not, but it just filled in some gaps in the episode, so I guess you can't complain too much about it. Now, there were two fights between Barry and Cicada. The first one was a bar fight where we actually have Peekaboo returning. We saw her in the trailers and also I think a promo image as well, so this wasn't a big like, oh my god, she's back moment. It was sort of revealed that she was already going to be in the episode. Yeah, as you'd expect when Barry's lost his powers, and he just got absolutely roundhoused, in that bar. He never stood a chance, which makes you think about like a bit later in the episode, like, does that make sense? Even if Barry was really angry, would that even happen? But we'll get to that in a second. Peekaboo couldn't control the little breach device, and I was like, it's a button. Press the big blue button, and the big blue portal will show up. It's not that hard. So, dramatic effect for literally no reason. It's a big blue button in the middle thing. It's not hard to miss. Now, one scene I thought was really silly. Now, this isn't me. This is actually me defending the character, because I'm like, why are the writers writing her in this way? So we had that Iris scene with Sherloque. And the reason this scene is silly is because us, the audience, knows that Sherloque is right. We know that Sherloque is 100% right, that Nora is doing stuff behind everyone's back. She's not being 100% trustworthy. And what he's doing makes sense. He sniffed a lead. The lead is 100% right. And he's on the right track to finding out what's happening. But then they do this big thing where Iris is upset. And she's like, no. You can't do this. I'm like, they should have done this before. They should have had something where maybe Sherloque thinks something is up. But us, the audience, we're like, oh, we can't be sure. So maybe there's a bit of doubt there. So then you can sort of side with Iris, or at least understand, or maybe not understand what Iris is doing, because you can still do that at this point in time. It's just that you're not completely siding with Sherloque because you know that he's right. So I don't know why this is coming up now. Maybe they should have done this before. There was at least a lot of evidence going against Nora, or maybe before we actually saw her talking to Eobard Thorne twice in the future. So very oddly placed scene for this. This should have happened earlier in the season. Just because you can't side with Iris in this situation, or at least you can't go against Sherloque. That's actually the best way to put it. I can't say you can't side with Iris, because you could still. You can't side against Sherloque though. Like, you have to go, well, Sherloque's right in the situation, so we're just going to be like, well, he's right, Iris, so it just feels like a wasted scene, or a scene that should have been put in earlier in the season. Hopefully you understand what I mean there. Now, throughout the episode, they're like, oh my god, who leaked the goddamn criminal list? Like, the Metahuman criminal list. And when I saw the guy in the episode, I was like, he's acting a bit weird. And unsurprisingly, it's that Jonesy dude. And the whole reason he's doing it is because of what Spin did to him in episode 4. Remember, he was actually the guy that like had the backpack with the bomb in it and stuff like that. So, and he was obviously roasted in that episode. So he didn't like the fact that he was controlled by Metatech. So he's getting some revenge by leaking, not some DMs, but leaking a Metahuman criminal watch list, I guess you'd call it. And he even goes the extra mile and just rats out the safe location where all the Metahumans are getting ready to be transported. So yeah, he doubled down on that, didn't he? But speaking of the safe location, we get that the cool moment where Ralph basically, I thought he was going to make like a bridge for himself so people could walk up, but I was like, it's a steep staircase with like no actual stairs. So I was like, that was a bit risky. So I guess it made sense that Ralph would go up and then just like bungee down and pick up people. So I thought that was pretty cool. In my Discord, someone made a joke about like Ralph going a bit too much and maybe hitting the propellers, and we might get some metahuman blood everywhere, but we avoided that catastrophe. But this is where we got a really cool fight with Barry and Killer Frost versus Cicada. Really, Killer Frost owned it until the point where Barry could really, use his powers, because Killer Frost isn't affected by the dagger. Before that though, when the powers are taken away, Barry, gets a good couple of shots on Cicada. I don't know if he's just allowing that in because, Cicada should still be able to smash him around. Cicada's still extremely strong. We've seen that earlier on in this episode and previous episodes as well. So I was surprised that Barry was able to even like knock him back or anything like that. But anyway. But essentially, when Barry got his powers back, he was like channeling his inner Green Arrow from the Elseworlds crossover, like angry Barry, like I'm gonna kill you. He was not happy. He wasn't a happy chappy, good old friend Barry. And we all knew he wasn't going to kill Cicada. Would he ever got to that point? Maybe, I don't know, because Cicada was still strong. It's not like he was like weak at that point. He still had some abilities to him. So he still could have taken a fair beating. The biggest issue probably came when like Nora shows up and then they just let Cicada go. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, why are you just letting him go? I know it's just like, oh, it's meant to be a nice moment between Barry and Nora, but it makes Team Flash look so dumb. It makes, at least Barry and Nora especially, because they're there right in front of Cicada, it makes them look dumb. And there's always been, and people still say it with Nora, and I agree with not the majority of the time, but like last episode I think was the case with it, where with Nora, they'll do one step forward with Nora, and then they'll take 2 steps back, you know, because there's moments like that, and there's always complaints about Barry in regards to that. Look, you know, maybe you give them the benefit of the doubt, like Barry thought he'd knocked him out, but take some precaution, take some, just some precaution, metahuman cuffs or something like that. It's not that hard. Now, we did have that Cecile versus Jonesy little debate or argument, if you want to call it, towards the end of the episode, which was great stuff. I thought Cecile was really top this episode. However, this was once again pretty clear this was an episode that Joe was meant to be in basically all the positions that Cecile was in, but because Jesse L. Martin is, was still recovering at the point of this episode being filmed, they gave it to Cecile. But it wasn't one of those awkward ones like, was it episode 5 or 6, where it just didn't work with Cecile replacing Joe. It actually worked in this episode. It still felt like Cecile fit into this situation, even though I still thought it was pretty obvious that this was meant to be like scenes where Joe was meant to be. But earlier on, Caitlin was talking about getting like blood from a recently created metahuman, and Killer Frost, the MVP, just comes in and goes, yo, it's in a little snowball, little ice ball, little literal snow globe. So there you go, there's some blood, which is going to help with the whole metahuman stuff. So congrats to Killer Frost on achieving that. But as I was saying, Sherloque, end of last episode, found some stuff out about Nora. He was, trying to decipher more of the journal, but he finds out at the end of this episode that there's actually 2 different styles of handwriting in Nora's journal. So there's Nora's handwriting, and then there's, as I think Sherloque says, there's a mastermind behind it all. So gonna be interesting to see how long it takes Sherloque to figure out what's going on here. I wonder, would Sherloque or Sherloque and... Oh no, because he's not, Earbaton's not a Wells. I don't know. And it'd be interesting to see if there's like, my guess, if I had to theorize, they're probably going to find some handwriting that Wells Abar did back in season 1 in somewhere, like a piece of paper or like a letter, maybe like a letter that he wrote or something, or maybe something like that. They're going to find something, or Sherlock's going to find something, or someone's going to recognize it and go, that handwriting looks familiar, or something along those lines, and that's where they're going to connect the dots and be like, oh my god, Nora's working with the Reverse Flash. What a surprise, not to us, but to them. Now, they do set up next week's episode at the end of this one where basically Barry comes to the, because he's like, oh, I don't think I'd be able to care anyone for more. He goes like, I don't think I'd be able to care more for anyone than I do Nora. And I was like, he's literally saying that to his wife, which I thought was a bit strange. I was like, you're literally saying that to your wife. So I was like, do you want to like step back, Barry? Maybe go, you and Nora. Nora and you, Iris. Sorry, I didn't want to forget you, but he specifically says Nora, so I don't know how the shippers are going to feel about that line. But they're going to go wake up Grace in order to sort of like, bring in Cicada. That's the best, or all in Dwight. That's the best way to put it. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. And we do end the episode with like Cicada going through like a scrapbook where we see a vibe and also pictures of Nora and like news articles and stuff. I don't know if he's like targeting Nora after that, or it's just his like personal scrapbook of people that he's messed with. So if you want to give me an answer to that, let me know in the comment section down below. I just saw it and it's like, oh, nice scrapbook in there, Cicada. It's good to know that you have another hobby. But overall, this was actually a pretty solid episode. There's some like question marks on it, but it's a Flash episode. Sometimes you have to suspend disbelief and just be like, okay, let's just go with the flow. So you got some good parts, you got some bad parts, but I think this was much better than like a balanced episode. I really enjoyed it. Cool parts with Barry, Killer Frost, and yeah, I thought you could argue that maybe the Nora bit was a bit over the top. I thought Jessica Parker Kennedy did a really good job in those emotional scenes when she had to be emotional. But you could argue that maybe like it wasn't that big of an episode. It just really sort of drove Barry's anger. But yeah, I thought it was an enjoyable episode. But next week we go to the future through Nora's memories. Going to be exciting. Cannot wait for it. And hopefully you guys are looking forward to it as well. But yeah, guys, let me know in the comment section down below. What was your favorite part? What didn't you like too much? Just let me know all of your overall opinions down there in the comments. And of course, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to drop a like on it. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, and I'll catch you for my next video, which will be my trailer breakdown for next episode of The Flash later on. And until then, I'll catch you later, guys. Goodbye.